In classical electrodynamics, today we are going to start the most important uh, concept, that is Maxwell's field equations. Actually, in introduction, I have told you that the classical electrodynamics is completely based on Maxwell's field equations, and any electromagnetic phenomena can be clearly explained in terms of these equations. So now we are going to study Maxwell's field equations. First of all, we will derive these equations actually in differential form, and after that we will transform these equations in differential form into integral form, which is also known as physical interpretation of Maxwell's field equations. Actually, Maxwell's aim was to describe the complete electromagnetic phenomena in terms of a set of few equations. And for this, he has selected from electricity and magnetism four basic equations. Actually, in these four equations, which are known as Maxwell's field equations, only in the fourth equation which I have mentioned here, there is a contribution of Maxwell. The other three equations were already known in electrostatics and in electromagnetism. The first equation here you can see is divergence D, which is also written as del dot D, is equal to rho. Here D is actually electric displacement and rho is free volume charge density. You know, charge may be free charge or may be bound charge or polarization charge. In this equation, rho represents the free volume charge density. And this is actually what? This is actually Gauss law for electric displacement vector D, which we study in electrostatics. In fact, this is the microscopic form of Gauss law for vector D. Similarly, the another equation, which is divergence B or del dot B equal to 0, is also known as Gauss law for magnetic induction B. Here B is magnetic induction. And the third equation is curl E equal to minus del B by del T. And in this equation, E is electric field and B is magnetic induction, and this is nothing. This is simply Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction in differential form. So in these three equations, there is no contribution of Maxwell at all. But the fourth equation, which is curl H equal to J plus del D by del T, this equation is actually the modification done by Maxwell to the Ampere's circuital law. In fact, in Ampere's circuital law originally, which actually applies in case of time independent field, curl H is equal to only J. This term del D by del T is actually known as displacement current density, and you have already studied it in previous lecture in very detail. So this equation is already known to you. I have already derived this equation curl H equal to del D by del T. And this term was introduced by Maxwell to apply the Ampere circuital law in case of time dependent fields. So these are the four Maxwell's equations. You should remember it. Now we will first of all derive these four equations. So in reduction, I am just going to derive first of all the first equation, which is divergence D equal to rho. For this, let us consider a closed surface S. As you are seeing in this figure, S is a closed surface, and this surface encloses a volume V. To get a general result, we consider that the interior of this closed surface is filled with a dielectric medium. And in this dielectric medium, we consider a point P here, and that point P is surrounded by an elementary volume, or you can say a volume element dV. And at this point P, that is inside this elementary volume dV, the volume charge density is actually equal to rho, or you may say rho total, because here rho total will represent the volume charge density due to free charge and due to the polarization charge, or you may say bond charge. Now, the charge distribution inside this closed surface or in this volume V will create electric field. So let us consider a point on this closed surface and around that point we select an elementary surface of area, suppose ds, and you know the elementary area vector is always normal to the surface, so this ds vector is normal to this elementary area, this elementary surface. And let us suppose the charge distribution inside this closed surface produces an electric field E at this point. To get a general result, I am here supposing that E is not directed in the direction of ds. It may be in the direction of ds, but in general we consider it in some different direction from the direction of ds. Now we will apply the Gauss law for the electric field vector E in electrostatics. You know this law states that the electric flux, or you can say flux of electric field vector E over a closed surface, is equal to total charge inside the surface divided by epsilon naught, or you can say 1 over epsilon naught times of the total charge inside the surface. So you can say, according to Gauss law for vector E, integral over the closed surface S of E dot ds. This quantity is also known as electric flux or flux of electric field vector over the closed surface S. And the law states that this is equal to 1 over epsilon naught times of the total charge inside the surface. If we assume that the total charge inside the surface is Q in for inside, then this will be 1 over epsilon naught Q in. Now, what will be this Q in? As I have told you that we have considered a point P in this volume V, and at that point I have assumed that the total volume charge density is rho total. Since this elementary volume is very small, so you can take this rho total as a constant inside this elementary volume. But this is in fact instantaneous value of this charge density, because this charge density may be space dependent and it may be time dependent. So this is its instantaneous value. If we want to find the charge distributed inside this elementary volume, what will be that? Since this is the charge in unit volume, and so in dV volume charge will be rho total into dV. And if you will integrate that value for the whole volume V, then we will get the total charge inside the surface which I have assumed Q in. So now you can write this Q in equal to, what will be this Q in? This will be rho total dV. This is actually the charge distributed in volume dV, and we take its integral for the entire volume V. then we will get the total charge distributed in volume V. And therefore, our equation 1 will become what? This will be integral over S E dot ds is equal to 1 over epsilon naught integral over V rho total dV. Rho total dV. And as I have told you, why I have written here rho total? Because in rho total there will be in fact two charge densities. One is due to the free charge. The free charge means the charge which is deposited by a battery, and another charge will be the polarization charge or the bond charge. As inside this surface there is dielectric, so polarization effect may take place, and due to polarization charge is developed. So this rho total is actually what? This rho total is equal to rho plus rho p. In this result, this rho is free charge density. I means that this is volume charge density, and this rho p is bond charge density. Bond charge density, or you may say polarization charge density. And I hope you have studied in electrostatics the physics of dielectrics, where we study Gauss law for the polarization vector. So that law states actually that divergence of P is equal to minus rho P. And in this equation, what is this P? This vector P is polarization vector. Polarization vector. And so now we can write rho total. What will be now this rho total? This will be rho plus rho p, but rho p will be minus divergence of p. So this is rho total. Now let us substitute this value of rho total in this equation, that is equation number 2. So after substituting it, we will find that, so from equation 2, we will write flux of electric field vector over the closed surface S, or in other words you can say this is the normal surface integral of electric field vector E over a surface S, and this will be equal to 1 over epsilon naught integral over V rho minus divergence of P dV. Rho minus divergence of P dV. Now in say this is equation 3, and you can see the LHS of this equation is a normal surface integral, while its RHS is a volume integral. And you know, by the use of Gauss's divergence theorem, we can transform this normal surface integral into a volume integral. And what that theorem states? The theorem states that the normal surface integral of any vector, say if the vector E over a closed surface S, is equal to volume integral of the divergence of that vector field over a volume V, which is actually enclosed by the surface S. So by Gauss's divergence theorem, Gauss's divergence theorem, what we can write? We can write that this normal surface integral E dot ds integral over a closed surface S is equal to integral over volume V divergence of E dV. And so we can replace the LHS of equation 3 by this factor. Therefore, we can write integral over V divergence of E dV is equal to 1 over epsilon naught integral over V rho minus divergence of P dV. And let us rearrange this term to some extent. This factor epsilon naught will be multiplied in LHS, and so our result will be what? This implies integral over V divergence of epsilon naught into A. See here, I have written this constant factor epsilon naught inside the divergence. Why? Since epsilon naught is an absolute constant, so if you take it inside this operator, you may take it out of the operator. So the result is not changed. And hence I have just multiplied the vector field E by epsilon naught. And this is equal to integral over V rho dV and minus integral over V divergence of P dV. Now we take out this term in LHS, and so you can see what will be this. This will be actually equal to integral over V divergence of epsilon naught E plus P dV, and this equals integral over V rho dV. And we know the relation between the three electric vectors D, E and P. Now epsilon naught into E plus P is equal to what? In electrostatics we studied this is actually electric displacement D, and therefore our above equation will be what? This will be integral over V divergence of D dV, and this equals integral over V rho dV. And you can write it as integral over V divergence D minus rho dV equal to 0. What will be the equation number? This will be actually equation number 4. Now see this result. as I have assumed that the closed surface S is of arbitrary shape and size, so the volume V enclosed by it is also arbitrary, and this result holds for this arbitrary volume. We have not considered any particular type of shape of this volume, so this is applicable, or it holds for any closed surface of any size, and so any volume, this equation holds. And it is possible only when this integrand divergence d minus rho will vanish itself. So as you can say, S is arbitrary, and this implies V is arbitrary. So divergence d minus rho should be 0, and it means divergence d is equal to rho, and this is actually Maxwell's first equation. So by the application of Gauss law for electric field vector E and Gauss's divergence theorem, we have easily derived the first equation of Maxwell. Now we will derive the second Maxwell's equation, and you know, I have mentioned above what is the second equation. The second equation is divergence B is equal to 0. Actually, derivation of this equation is very easy, and you have definitely studied magnetic lines of force in lower classes, and we know that the magnetic lines of force are either closed curves or they go off to infinity. It means the number of magnetic lines of force entering any arbitrary closed surface is exactly the same as the number of the magnetic lines of force leaving the surface. And it means you know the total number of lines, magnetic lines of force entering or leaving a surface is actually known as magnetic flux. So you can say, in other words, for a closed surface, the outward going magnetic flux is equal to inward going magnetic flux. And you know by the sign convention that we take the outward going magnetic flux as positive and the inward going magnetic flux as negative. So definitely the total magnetic flux or the flux of magnetic induction B across any closed surface is always 0. So by this argument we can easily derive this equation, which is called Maxwell's second field equation. So regarding magnetic lines of force, we should note that magnetic lines of force, they are imaginary. This is a common property, and they are actually closed curves or go off to infinity, and this implies the number of lines of force not forces, lines of force entering any arbitrary closed surface equal to number of lines of force leaving the surface. Or in other words, you can say that inward flux of B is equal to outward flux of P, but sign will be different. So we conclude that it means the total flux of B over a closed surface let us say S is 0. So if we assume any closed surface S, the total magnetic flux over this closed surface S will be 0. That is, in mathematical way, we can say that integral over S B dot ds is equal to 0. Say this is equation 1. Now again we will apply Gauss's divergence theorem, and applying that theorem we can change this surface integral into volume integral. And so you may write by Gauss's divergence theorem we can write the normal surface integral of vector B over the closed surface S. This is actually equal to integral over volume V divergence B dV. Here V is actually the volume enclosed by the closed surface S. And so from the above equation, what we can write? We can write that integral over V divergence B dV is equal to 0. And again you know that this volume V is arbitrary since the surface S is arbitrary. So this integrand must be 0. So you can say as the surface S is arbitrary, it means this result will hold for any closed surface of any shape and size. So the integrand should be 0, that is divergence of B is equal to 0. And you know this is Maxwell's second equation. So we have derived the Maxwell's first and second equation. Now I am going to derive Maxwell's third equation, and you know what is Maxwell's third equation? This is actually curl E is equal to minus del B by del T. As I have told you, actually this equation is nothing, this is simply the differential form of Faraday's law. So its derivation will be also started from the original statement of Faraday's law. So what the what is the statement of Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction? Actually, the law states that the induced EMF developed in a closed loop is equal to the rate of change in magnetic flux, and we should take negative sign as the rate of as the change in number of magnetic flux opposes the EMF developed. So, including the Lenz law, uh, when we write Faraday's law, we use a negative sign in the RHS. So, according to Faraday's law, of electromagnetic induction, the induced EMF in a closed loop is E equal to minus d phi by dt. Actually, here phi is what? This phi is defined as integral over s b dot ds, and this is actually flux of magnetic induction B, or you can say this is magnetic flux. And here the surface may be closed or may be open. It is not a necessary condition that in this case the surface should be closed. It is not a necessary condition. It may be open or it may be closed. So let us substitute this meaning of phi in the Faraday's law. So this result implies that E is equal to minus d dt integral over s b dot ds. Here the magnetic field B, in fact in electrodynamics, magnetic field B is a function of both space coordinates and time coordinates. But here we are just considering a magnetic field which varies with time. So its space part is taken constant, and hence if we will operate this operator to this time varying magnetic field, then d dt will be changed into del t. D dt must be changed into del t because we are considering here only the time dependence of magnetic field, but we know that magnetic field is not only time dependent but also space dependent. But here we are ignoring the space dependence of B, only we have considered the time dependence. So this equation should be written as E is equal to minus integral over S del B by del T dot ds. And this is actually Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction, from which we have defined the induced EMF. But the basic definition of EMF is what? Actually, we define the EMF as a work done in moving a unit positive charge once round along a closed path. So from this definition, what will be the value of this EMF E. So by definition of EMF, E is given as integral along C. C is actually a closed path. Let us say this is our surface and this is the closed curve enclosing this surface or a closed loop, and S is this our surface. So the definition of EMF states that this EMF E will be equal to integral of E dot dl. Actually this is line integral of electric field vector E along a closed loop or closed curve C. Actually how this result is obtained, as I have told you that the definition is EMF is work done on a unit positive charge in moving once round a trip along a closed path. So if E is the electric field, force acting on a point charge Q will be QE, and in an elementary displacement dl, work done will be QE dot dl, and for the closed path this will be integral of QE dot dl, and if we consider the unit positive charge, then we have to divide it by Q. So this Q and Q will be cancelled out, and you can see the work done in moving a unit positive charge once around a trip along a closed path will be what? That will be simply integral along C E dot dl. So I have defined E in this manner as a line integral, or you may say tangential line integral. This is actually tangential line integral of electric field vector E along a closed loop C. So you can see there are two equations defining this induced EMF E. In equation 1 E has been defined, and in equation defined by on the basis of Faraday's law, and in equation 2 same quantity E has been defined from its basic definition. So both are defining the same quantity, and hence we can equate equation 1 and 2. So now equating equation 1 and 2. Equating 1 and 2, we will get integral along C E dot dl, this is dot E dot dl, and that will be equal to minus integral over the surface S del B by del T dot ds. And you can see the LHS of this equation is a tangential line integral, while its RHS is a normal surface integral. And you know in vector calculus we study a theorem which is called Stokes theorem, and this theorem actually converts a tangential line integral of a vector field into the normal surface integral. So applying the Stokes theorem, we can change this this tangential line integral of vector E into the normal surface integral. What the theorem states? The theorem states that the tangential line integral of any vector field, let us say E, along a closed loop is actually equal to the normal surface integral of the curl of that vector over a surface S, and S is that surface which is actually enclosed by this closed loop C. So by Stokes theorem, Stokes theorem, what we can write? We can write from this theorem integral along C E dot dl is equal to integral over S curl of E dot ds. And so now we can equate equation 3 and 4. You can see the LHS of both equations are same, so RHS will be also same. Thus, we can write integral over S curl of E dot ds is equal to minus integral over S del B by del T dot ds. And rearrange the term, you can write it as integral over S curl E plus del B by del T dot ds is equal to 0. And you can now see, I have mentioned it several times, that the surface which we are considering is completely arbitrary, and so this equation holds for any arbitrary surface, and hence the surface does not matter for this null result. It means if this definite integral is 0 for any surface, then it is possible only when this integrand is itself 0. So you can write curl E plus del B by del T is equal to 0, and this implies curl E is equal to minus del B by del T. And you know this is actually Maxwell's third equation. Now, as I have told you earlier, that Maxwell's fourth equation, which is actually the modification of Ampere-Circuital law done by Maxwell. And the equation is what? This is curl H equal to J plus del D by del T. And you remember, already we have studied this very equation while the study of displacement current. So there is no need to repeat the same thing and go to the lecture of displacement current and see its proof. So I am just leaving it and suggest you to again watch the lecture on displacement current. You will find the derivation of this equation. So here there is no need to derive it. So this is all for today. In next lecture, we will discuss the integral form of Maxwell's equations, which is also known as physical interpretation of this equation.